Take a closer look at some of this video. It's new just into our newsroom, showing that blast last night. So right now, we're already starting to see some damage. We've got some video we want to show you, tweeted out by the York County Sheriff's Office.
These storms also causing power outages already. Right now, Duke Energy says about more than 13,000 customers are in the dark across the Carolinas.
Right now, there are 132 delays, 24 cancellations.
So right now, we have team coverage as we work to keep you and your family safe. Investigating after a Delta flight from Atlanta landed without its front nose gear.
They're showing the plane on the runway just moments after it landed. Passengers deplaned and were shuttled back to the airport. Charlotte Douglas says that runway will remain closed while they work to remove the plane.
We're following several court hearings in both Mecklenburg and Union counties. The suspects you see on your screen are expected to appear before a judge this morning in two separate cases. First, 18-year-old Eric Caldwell will appear in court any moment now after.
In Northeast Charlotte, CMPD says two people were killed in a shooting at an apartment complex.
Then in Steel Creek, a shooting left one man dead and a 17-year-old in the hospital.
The North Tryon Street exit. We know 3 people taken to the hospital. They're expected to be okay.
Right now, crews are dealing with the aftermath of a multi-alarm fire at a popular restaurant. We continue to follow breaking news out of Iowa. Law enforcement now says there are multiple victims after a shooting at a high school, including an administrator. And in just the last 10 minutes, the Associated Press is reporting a source says the shooter is dead after taking his own life. Along the Big Bend region of Florida's Gulf Coast, causing flooding and damage.
Take a look at this video. This is from Cedar Key. You have just heard from members of law enforcement and local elected officials, including the governor, after that deadly ambush in East Charlotte killed 4 officers and left 4 others hurt. Thanks for joining us here for the news at noon. I'm Ben Thompson.
And I'm Sarah French. Right now, we learn the fallen deputy marshal, that 4th victim, has been identified. Thomas Weeks is his name. CMPD Chief Johnny Jennings also says one officer still in the hospital and in stable condition after getting surgery from a gunshot wound overnight. 2 other officers were shot and released from the hospital, we've learned. The 4th officer was treated for a broken foot and released from the hospital. We're going to break down all the latest details. And folks, we got a lot of information over the course of the last hour. We want to start with what the community has lost in the last 24 hours. Take a look at your screen. Task Force officers and former corrections officer Samuel Pelosi and William Alden Elliott, along with CMPD officer Joshua Iyer, all killed in yesterday's shooting. As we mentioned, we've also learned in the last hour that Deputy Marshal Thomas Weeks was killed as well. We are awaiting his picture at this moment. Have team coverage right now. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Devane is in the Shannon Park neighborhood, hearing from neighbors after that horrific ordeal.
Destiny Richards is at Atrium Hospital in Dilworth with more on the fallen officers and those who are still recovering at this point. And Austin Walker hearing from the wider Charlotte community as we all mourn the loss of 4 officers.
And we're just getting this photo now of U.S. Deputy Marshal Thomas Weeks. What we do know about him: 48 years old, survived by his wife and 4 children. And as you can see in that photo, they said in the press conference, he was known for always having a smile on his face.
This man has video. He actually live streamed this on Facebook Live. He came home with his son, and then his son was told by marshals to go inside. They both went inside, but Mr. Sane, he actually stood outside.
You can see just how massive the flooding is there, how high those waters are.
These are just some of the videos we received into our newsroom over the last 24 hours showing the damage to cars, homes, and roads.
Look at the Queen City skyline from our Ballantyne camera, and it's pretty clear right now, but this afternoon that is going to change.
Folks in the mountains are under a winter weather advisory because of ice and sleet. And here in Charlotte, cold temperatures and wet weather might impact your weekend plans. The name of a Rocky River High School student who was killed in a car crash yesterday. Thanks for joining us here for the news at 11:30. I'm Ben Thompson.
4 teens are dead after a high-speed crash on I-95. It happened early yesterday morning. The North Carolina Highway Patrol says a trooper clocked the car going 104 miles per hour.
Right now at 11:30, video you will only see right here on WCNC Charlotte. A manhunt spanning several counties ends this morning in Shelby. Our cameras catch the moments leading up to that arrest. Plus, no travel impacted at Charlotte Douglas this morning after a fire forced an evacuation. And seemingly constant construction in Plaza Midwood leaves neighbors and business owners frustrated. Duke Energy sharing an update on when that work is going to wrap up. Thanks for joining us here for the news at 11:30. I'm Ben Thompson. We begin with breaking news out of Cleveland County. Shocking new video caught exclusively by WCNC Charlotte shows the moments a suspect was captured after an overnight manhunt. You see him there running across the street. 29-year-old Jeremy Huffman now behind bars this morning, facing several charges for shooting at deputies and leading them on a chase through several counties. WCNC Charlotte's Richard Vane now live for us from the scene. Richard, you watched this whole thing go down.
Absolutely correct, Ben. We can tell you that Sheriff Norman says that basically he wants him to face the maximum penalties of the law, including attempted murder for actually shooting into what he says was an occupied school bus with a driver and 3 folks inside, 3 young children inside. Let me tell you, we were standing right here where we are, me and photojournalist Ruben Wallace, when all of a sudden we saw him come out of those woods right over there and run in this direction. First, he tried to run down the street on Dixon Boulevard, but then he came across the highway, and that's when officers caught him right there. Let's take a look at some of this exclusive video. As I said, our cameras, Ruben Wallace was rolling right as this all happened, unfolded in front of our eyes. Jeremy Huffman was running across the street. Police had been searching his perimeter all morning. We were out here watching as they started screaming. We saw him run across the street. They managed to tackle him in the scuffle right here. We realized that he was actually reaching for his gun, that same gun that he used to fire several times yesterday at officers in both here in Cleveland County and also in Lincoln County. We spoke to Sheriff Norman, who was happy about the fact that this man was captured. Here's what he had to say.
We know he's a dangerous guy. He proved it yesterday with the exchange of gunfire with Lincoln County SO.
Yeah, and they say they knew that he meant business. As a matter of fact, as we'll come back here in 30 minutes, we're going to tell you just how close he came to actually pulling that gun. His hand was on the trigger right as they captured him. But thankfully now he's off the streets and behind bars. And you just heard the sheriff. He says he wants him to face the maximum penalties. We're right here in Shelby. Richard Vane. Guys, we'll send it back to you.
So glad that whole thing ended safely, not only for law enforcement, but also the community as well as you all. And of course, as you mentioned, captured by our photographer, Ruben Wallace. All right, Richard, thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Right now, officials say travel is not impacted after a fire broke out at Charlotte Douglas. It happened at the old control tower. That's located between the 2 parking decks just north of the main terminal. We're told 4 construction workers were trapped at the top of the tower at the time. However, they were able to get out. The fire is now under investigation. CMPD is investigating a deadly shooting at a motel in North Charlotte. It happened just before 4 this morning at the Budget Inn on Old Interstate Road. Police tell us when they got to the scene, they found someone who had been shot.
Upon arrival, they located a victim with a gunshot wound. Medic arrived on scene and transported the victim to the hospital, where the victim was ultimately pronounced deceased.
At this time, there's no word on any suspects or what led up to the shooting. If you know anything, call Crime Stoppers. We're learning a man will not face charges after he shot and killed a woman. This all started around 3 yesterday afternoon on Riverwalk Parkway near Cell River Road in Rock Hill. Police say a man and woman got into a fight at work. After the fight, the woman got into a vehicle with another woman who then blocked the man's car. That is when they say the coworker pulled a gun on the man. They say the man pulled out his own gun, shooting and killing the woman. Police say the man was acting in self-defense and will not face charges. Turning now to another big story, your forecast and live pictures right now over uptown, courtesy of our view cam. Really starting to heat up here in the Carolinas. Temperatures expected to hit around 89, 90 degrees today, but just wait until the weekend. Meteorologist Brittany Van Voorhees joins us right now with a scorcher of a forecast. Brittany?
Ben, really, it is that forecast, really Sunday and beyond into early next week that we are talking about. Heat index values reaching 100 all the way close to 104 degrees. Now, we know that at the peak of summertime here in the Carolinas, we can get above these numbers. We just haven't seen them so far. And so this is going to be a bit of a shock to the system. And not only will the heat index values reach the triple digits, but our actual air temperature also in the upper 90s. So a good reminder here to use the 3 S words here: sunscreen, using the shade, and of course, course, staying hydrated. And that's the case really today, too, as we slowly start to creep up. But as Ben mentioned, today is probably going to be the best day that we will see in at least about a week's time, as we're only reaching the upper 80s to near 90 degrees. In fact, a gorgeous day across the board, across our camera network, which it looks like 3 out of 4 decided they didn't want to work. But I promise you, it's probably just so nice outside that they just decided that they're going to get outside and enjoy. If you're trying to get outside later on this afternoon, no matter what you're doing, maybe taking a walk, playing pickleball, whatever you got going on, we are going to see a gorgeous afternoon. We have mid-80s by about the middle part of the day, so about an hour or so from now, upper 80s by this afternoon, and then a pleasant evening, so probably even better to get outside for some late playing time. Now again, today in the upper 80s, but we have 90s by tomorrow, and then only going up from there. So coming up, we'll talk about what day is expected to be the hottest and a few more tips on how you can stay safe. That's coming up.
We'll work on those cameras in the meantime. All right, Brittany, thanks. Right now, the North Carolina Senate Judiciary Committee advancing a bill that could potentially legalize medical marijuana in the state. A new amendment would allow doctors to prescribe marijuana to people with certain medical conditions like cancer, epilepsy, and PTSD, and Parkinson's. Right now, the bill still needs approval from state lawmakers and the governor. Lawmakers also introduced a new bill that would require a registry for vape products. If approved, vape manufacturers would need to get their product certified and entered into a database before it could be sold on store shelves. The bill would also penalize stores that sell non-certified products. Right now, some folks in Plaza Middlewood asking, where's the money as Duke Energy construction stretches into its 7th month?
Literally have no idea how this has been going on since November of last year, y'all.
That video was posted by the owner of Sip City just a couple of days ago. It has more than 11,000 views with some heated comments calling the project infuriating, also never ending. WCNC Charlotte's Kaylin Hagwood has an update on the timeline from Duke Energy.
Starting Sip City was a dream for Yaz Humayday.
So it's a small team, but mighty.
He opened the business in May of last year as a place for the community to gather, grab a drink, and shop for something special.
Harder than I thought, but it is very manageable.
But less than a year after opening, one of their biggest struggles began right in front of his store.
The construction itself is very disruptive to a small business.
Duke Energy says the project is supposed to help families by taking power lines underground to cut down on outages.
There was a high frequency of cars hitting utility poles, and so it's actually a public safety project.
But after lasting more than 4 months longer than expected, Humayday joins those in search of answers.
The other day I was like, this is crazy. I saw this same spot dug up like not long ago, and now they're digging it again.
It took him less than 30 seconds to share his thoughts in this video posted to Sip City's Instagram.
I don't get it. Math doesn't math.
Many in the comments sharing their own frustrations on the quote, never-ending construction.
That validates that I'm not the only person frustrated with this.
WCNC Charlotte took their concerns to Duke Energy, who said heavy traffic and a miscalculation are partly to blame.
We ended up having to place them a little bit deeper underground than we thought we would, and that was just because once we got underground, we saw that some of the utilities, other utilities have infrastructure underground deeper than we had anticipated.
Now that they've kind of shared why that happened, is the mathing now?
No, the math is still not mathing. I don't want to be the person that complains. Like, I know they're doing something good for long term, but the craziness of digging up the same spot over and over.
So he posted again, this time saying he's willing to help.
All right, Duke Energy, I've decided to take this upon myself.
But Duke Energy says they've got it covered, and the work will be done soon.
We do want to thank our customers for their patience. We know that this type of work can be disruptive.
Kaylin Hagwood reporting for us there. Duke Energy says the work is now set to be completed in mid-September. We'll keep you posted. Coming up, a day at the pool nearly ending in tragedy for one local family. We're sharing their story and the basic training that helped save their 2-year-old's life. Plus, it's officially summer. We're connecting the dots on why the solstice arrived a little early this year.